Predictive programming, what it is and how they use it. As I continue to finish my message on Satan's final plan, it was important for me to do such messages like the one I will show you today, along with showing you messages like the truth on JFK and Lincoln's assassination. It is not because I want you to necessarily focus on all the lies of government and history, but more to let you be aware of how greatly the deception goes. The fact that everything you have been taught is a lie, how the government is against you, how not only are they all related to each other somehow, but they are all Jewish. And when I say Jewish, I am talking about the Zionist evil Jews, not all Jews. How they use predictive programming as one of the many things to get you to believe the lies. How government, churches, religion, politics, and Hollywood entertainment are all in on the lie, even the Christian industry as well. How the world is just one big staged event led by Satan himself, either you are an active, willing player or you know the game and refuse to play. I needed to check all these check marks off the box so that when I tie them all together, you will understand and be able to see the whole picture and the truth. I won't be able to say the date of, as you see on your screen, so I'll skip over it along with other trigger words. Again, this alone, that we have to watch what we say, should be yet another red flag of how they are censoring the truth. This is from chapter 3 of my book called 911 Reasons You Were Not Told the Truth of that date, which it is a 500-page book I wrote and was planning on releasing on the 20th anniversary. But well, we know a lot happened since then, and seriously, nobody would accept the truth of that day. And the book would have been censored anyways. So I didn't publish it. But chapter 3 is really good at showing all the predictive programming pre that date that it happened. I also was going to include chapter 2 at the end, where I name every single person involved in that day by name and show how they are all dual citizens between U.S. and Israel. But that section is 34 pages, and this is going to be long enough already. So I will just say that it was roughly around less than 80 people that day, and they all either were related with Zionist Jewish ties or they had dual citizenship in USA and Israel, which is a huge key factor in my message on Satan's final plan. Plus, it'll help to show you today's current predictive programming that they are using for a new date and time. The problem is we know that Satan deceives all nations, so the deception is huge. That is why most of you are playing the game and don't even think you are. Especially Christians. So chapter 3 was called The Entertainment World. The Entertainment World. There are hundreds or more different movies, TV shows, video games, magazines, and other forms of entertainment used that show a reference as knowing about that date or about those people. We will look at many different examples of this and how it was done. As you read this section of the book, here are a few questions to consider thinking about. Are these all just silly coincidences that seem to have happened? How were they able to be so accurate with their predictions? And who would want to put this information out there and why? First, we'll look at all the video games. Perhaps some of you are thinking this might seem like a stretch, saying that the towers were a huge landmark and that's why they appear in so many places such as movies or TV. But if you understand how programmed mind control works, it might help explain these things. Furthermore, being able to see why they do this on purpose and not just a mere coincidence. I also understand how people will be saying, no way, this can't be true. I'm not a gamer, so I thought the same thing. But after researching what the content of these video games showed, let's just say you might think differently. Number 1, Masters of Weapons. In 1989, the game was basically after nuclear war. The survivors attempt to use their resources to bring the Earth back to the way it was, using a system called the God system. Imagine that. Here is where you will see the foreshadowing of that day. You can shoot at super tall buildings, which are grouped in pairs, much like that of the WTC. Once you shoot at them a few times, they collapse or fall. In the same way we see the towers come down on that day. But wait, there is more. At the beginning of the game, the text shows that this game takes place September, that date, 1990X. King of the Monsters 2. In 1992, the game took place 3 years after the first game. where only 3 monsters had survived, but in 1999, threats to conquer the Earth are set. The monsters must defeat them and show who is the king of the monsters. Here is where you see the foreshadowing of that day. During one of the first fights, you can see those things. Then you see them explode with what looks like explosives, and you see them fall to the ground in the same fashion as they did on that date. Urban Strike. This game was released in 1994. The game was set in 2001. A millionaire ex-president candidate, a cult leader who will expunge corruption from America, promises that his security forces will tackle crime. Here is where you see the foreshadowing of that certain date. During the game, you see those fall. They get attacked. Then you see a giant hole in one of the towers with a giant helicopter trying to rescue people. The game takes place in 2001, almost the exact way the attack happened in 2001. The date of 2001 makes you question this. Aero Fighters 2. Released in 1994, the game allows you to pilot a jet and have the opportunity to shoot up and destroy buildings and enemy planes. Here's where you see the foreshadowing of that date. In one of the scenes of the game, you have the opportunity to shoot a hole into WTC, reenacting what happened precisely 7 years later. Deus Ex, released in 2000, in one of the levels of this game, you can see around the New York skyline. Both of the are now seen in the New York skyline. There are 2 explanations of why they are not there. In-game dialogue said they were destroyed by the developer of the game said were removed due to memory restraints. Here's where we need to question what the developer of this game says for reasoning this was tested out. The test showed that when the textures were put in the game, it ran just fine. The memory still had plenty of space. Command & Conquer Red Alert 2. Released in 2000, this game does not predict anything within the game, but when you look at the cover for the game, on the back of the box, you see a plane flying right toward at what looks like the exact spot were hit. The cover also shows explosive of what appears to be extreme heat. Later, they replaced the cover where it was not showing the plane flying directly toward the building of impact. The front cover was also changed. The original man has an American flag in his eye hole, which later was replaced with a picture of a mushroom cloud. Trade Center Defender. Released in April 2001, this was a flash video game where shooters shot a plane that were coming toward if the plane hit they would collapse to the ground in the same way you see on that date. Finding a copy of this game is nearly impossible in the year 2020, so anyone who does have a copy, either you are sitting on something that could make you very rich or something you want to hide and never talk about, depending on where your thoughts are on certain topics discussions. After that date, all copies of this game were taken off the shelves and destroyed. A new game came out by French game developer at the end of 2001 with a new game, New York Defender. Television programming. We will see how they use television to promote their plan, again laughing in our faces through the use of TV. The first one is Lone Gunman, referred often by different people who talk about things that had to do with the attacks. After reading it, you will understand why so many people use it to reference things to that date. The Lone Gunman. In the pilot episode, which aired on March 4, 2001, rogue members of the U.S. government remotely an airline departing from Boston. They are planning to crash into the WTC and let anti-American groups take credit to gain support for a new profitable war following the Cold War. Some of the passengers considered taking over the hijackers. Wow, doesn't that sound familiar? Where have I heard something almost to the exact way of this TV episode? Oh well, who knows? I guess. Let's roll. On with the script from the Lone Gunman. Okay, let's get back on board. Let's check the cabin and pinpoint where the is. This is your plan? I still think we should call in a threat and let the FBI deal with this. In doing so, this will be in full contents of this conspiracy. We can't trust any government official. They're boarding. Then I guess that's 2 problems solved. Are you sure this plane was chosen for the flight? This plane was chosen specifically because of its visibility. It's scheduled to pass over Manhattan on its way to Boston. You said they tend to bring us down in the middle of New York City? What if there is no... Well, then how else would they bring us down? The same way a dead man can drive a car. What do you mean, no? I need you to hack into the coordinates aviation system and know where we are headed. I got it. It's what the brain of the plane is telling the little black box. The agents get on the airphone and call the airport headquarters. I need to know our flight plan. Ignore the flight plan. I'm mapping the data now. Your flight is going to make an unusual stop in exactly 22 minutes at the corner of Liberty and Washington, Lower Manhattan. They're going to crash into the... I will tell the flight crew. There may be a chance we might be able to override it. Needless to say, are fried. Then another scene comes on where a guy goes and talks to a girl about needing a chip. You will be sacrificing the lives of hundreds of people. How much are you going to enjoy the millions when it has been paid in blood money? A girl says, I guess you do not know me. The man says back to her, I do know you, Lee Harvey Oswald. They go back to the men on the plane, and one of the men says, stall. Them. Then you see out of the front of the airplane that the plane is heading straight into the... But in the last seconds, you see the plane go into manual override. If only we could have had someone go into manual override and save all those people that day. This, to me, should be enough to wake up America. The sad truth is there are always going to be people who can be shown all the evidence and still choose never to accept it. The saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. The Simpsons. In the episode entitled Marge vs. the Monorail, January 14, 1993, a couple is dancing, and in the background on the poster is the burning. In the episode entitled The City of New York vs. Homer Simpson, Lisa says how she loves New York, holds up a magazine cover, and shows you can take the bus for $9, and in the background is the making it look like... Then Bart flashes up money in front of the magazine to perhaps say it is all about money. The Tick vs. the Protoclone Clown. In just the first couple minutes of this episode, someone comes on the radio and says something to the effect of, I repeat, the mayor has issued a citywide alert. Government officials have stated an emergency. We are under attack. As he says this, you see the just standing there. When he finishes the message, to my complete shock, you hear and the fall. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, TMNT episode. The Turtles are talking to Master Splinter and they say, Shredder is up to something. We don't know what it is. All we know is he said it has to do with the... Then later they show the Turtles saying, hang on, we are going to crash into the... Men in Black cartoon. Slim, remember those? Yeah, what about them? I don't think they're going to be very tall anymore. Then a gray looking like missile blimp flies toward the... Porky Pig cartoon. They can't breathe. They're trapped. What's that? It's the... They're falling, a dog says in panic to Porky Pig. Rugrats. In an episode of the Rugrats, you see they show a picture of the city of New York. Then it goes to Angelica sitting on Santa's lap, telling him what she wants for Christmas. She says, a teenage nuclear video game, an exploding doll, and a 911 surgical kit. The thing that stands out about this episode, first they show New York, then the fact that she says nuclear, exploding, and the oddest thing of all is why does she say the words 911 instead of just merely saying doctor kit? Iron Man, unidentified warplane headed for New York City. The system shows nothing. Mayday, Mayday, New York is under attack. Intercept. The force field is shielding the plane. It's getting through. Then it shows a plane with missiles shooting into the... Then the plane crashes into the whole time you hear loud explosions. The movie industry. They like to use movies to predict that event as well. Apart from my belief that they use movies as a way of silently communicating with one another, reassuring the plan is still a go, and they use the movies as just one more way of doing this. Back to the Future. Back to the Future shows many references to that day, throughout the movie and in the sequels. When I say many, I am saying around 150 references. I will be listing a few, but if this interests you like it does me, I have added an Appendix A in the back of the book listing all of them. One of my friends is going to make a YouTube video showing them all. Look up Barely Human on YouTube to see his amazing videos. Back to the Future. The clock shows the time of one of the hands in the 11-hand window and the other hand in the 9 window. When Doc is in the parking lot, it shows Marty going to the mall parking lot. It shows a glimpse of the name of the mall being called Twin Pine Mall. The time is 1:16, or that upside down. 2 pine trees are representing the... After the shoot Doc, it shows the same sign and the 2 pine trees are gone. It is now called Lone Pine Mall. Then try to write it off by saying it is because when Marty went back in time, he took out one of the pine trees, making it a single pine tree, which was stupid. That's not the truth. And then those is attacking Doc in the parking lot in one scene of the movie. The warning says, save the... Then when the strikes take place, a huge is ignited in flames on the street. There are 2 boxes of candy bars in the cafe. One is upside down, SDNUOM, and the other one is normal, mounds. Sound it out and see what it sounds like. Doc, are you saying this is nuclear? Marty says. No, it's electrical, but I need a nuclear reaction to generate the 1.21 gigabytes of electricity, Doc says. After Doc sends Marty back to the future, you see in the lightning. Marty goes past an address, which is 1646. Backwards, you get 9, 4 plus 6 plus 1 equals 11, so... In the parking lot scene, Doc holds up 2 stopwatches, both showing the time of... Back to the Future 2. When Marty flies into the future, a sign says, Depart Boston. Spray painted on the wall said 1-16, or USA Today newspaper says, Hillsdale's cops, when they drop off Jennifer at her future house, says, should burn it to the ground. Tombstone of George McFly says April 1st, 1938, or backwards. Back to the Future 3. The back of the cover of Back to the Future 3 observes the Roman numerals. The E on future plus the first Roman numeral makes a perfect. Marty gets hung like was. The train conductor says you will have to get the fires hot enough, and I mean hot. Clara asks the ticket person at the train stop, how far does the 8 o'clock train go? Ticket guy says San Francisco is the end of the line, just like flight was supposed to leave at 8 o'clock and was headed to San Francisco. Here's the funny thing. Once they figured out people were picking up on these signs, they changed the trilogy to take out certain things like, and among other things. They said the reason was because of what happened on... They felt it was best to take things out. Strange, considering we hear these words in many other movies today, kind of like they were trying to cover their tracks. The only problem with this is everyone who owns a VHS copy, along with the early copies of the trilogy on DVD, can't control everything, can you? Again, this has many references, so I'll only be listing a few and putting the rest in the Appendix A. I only did Home Alone, the first one, but considering the second Home Alone is called Lost in New York, I'm sure it is full of many references as well. If you have time, you should watch it and see if you can find them. Did I burn down the joint? I don't think so, Kevin says. When the girl counts the kids before they get in the van, she starts to count, and Buzz says 11, 9, 2, or backwards. She tells him to stop, and she continues to count. She emphasizes the number 9 and the number 11 when she is counting. Behind the mom is the airport van, says 191, or the phone number on the airport van was 454-7800, or 4 plus 5 equals 9, 4 plus 7 equals 11, making the Goofy movie, showing Max getting a note in the library, and when he opens it, it has, at the bottom of the note, the word appreciation is missing, the slash in the letter N, making it look like the... Another part in the movie, you hear one of Max's friends say, 911, baby. At the end of the movie, one of the kids dancing is showing the triangle to represent the Illuminati. The Big Lebowski. In the opening scene of this movie, the guy is writing a check, and the date on the check is September 1991. They then flash to a TV monitor showing Bush talking and saying, within all for collective action, this will not stand, this aggression against Kuwait. Absolutely nothing to do with this movie, but yet they make a huge point to show the date of September and then have Bush talking about aggression against Kuwait. The Long Kiss Goodbye. Budget cuts, my dear. Congress blinded us overseas. I was forced to find any eyes and ears that I could find, even if that meant, quote, unquote, the bad guys here. And then he says that, remember in 1993, during the trial, one of the claimed the CIA had advanced knowledge. The diplomatic visa was CIA. It's not unthinkable that they paid the way for just to make it justifiable for a budget increase. Samuel L. Jackson then says, "You are trying to tell me this thing is just to scare some money out of Congress?" Well, unfortunately, I do not know how to fake 4,000 people, so we are just going to have to do it for real. We will blame it on the naturally, then I will get my funding. Just when you think your ears and eyes have heard and seen it all. Nope. You stop that stuff. I don't want to hear about it. You dump a mess like this into my lap and then come whining to me later saying, "Where is our funding?" Well, I will tell you where it can say healthcare. Magazines, comic books, and posters. Yes, believe it or not, they even use magazines, comics, school textbooks, and posters. Any form of entertainment they can get their hands on, they will. New York Magazine. A New York Magazine cover early 2001 shows a picture of a lady screaming in fear in the background, and the article next to the says, "Is there life beyond the..." Cover of Newsweek. 1962 cover of Newsweek shows Rockefeller doing an interview on his watch is clearly visible, and the hands on the watch is pointed at the 9, and the other hand is pointed at all the way back to 1962, and people still don't believe how advanced they are and how far back their planning goes before an event happens. Spot the difference. In the Spot the Difference picture is of a New York waitress holding up a glass of orange juice in what appears to be an orange are in the background. Textbook. A math school book in 1997 shows with a huge Boeing plane looking like it's about to hit the Die Hard poster. The cover of the Die Hard movie poster shows the on fire burning in the background. Meteor poster. Meteor movie poster 1979 shows the burning up in the background. Comic strip. Buy Me Some Time. A comic strip with a military man on the cover with guns and a huge clock behind him with the hands on the clock pointing to. They're money and card games. The fact that they use money is just crazy to me. I found this quite interesting to try and see for myself. It is scary how it looks exactly like it's spot on correct. I highly recommend trying it for yourself because seeing is believing. Money bills. Believe it or not, they use money to laugh in our face by putting it right in front of us. The $5 bill, if folded a certain way, shows the results of the Pentagon before the $10 bill folded a certain way shows the results of the on fire. The $20 bill, if folded a certain way, shows an exact match of the burning just like the picture they show. Fold the 20 bill another way and it shows the blowing up. Check out the sources under resource for the website on how to do this, if nothing else, just for curiosity. Illuminati card game. In September 1981, Steve Jackson decided a game about the secret conspiracy idea behind Illuminatus was viable. It went on the market in July 1982. Over the next few years, 3 expansions were for the Pocket Box Illuminati game were published. The first 2 were incorporated into the deluxe edition, while the third was a version of what would become Illuminati Brainwash. You might find it weird how a lot of these cards predict things that later happen, almost as if he had an inside information the rest of us did not. Illuminati card. The Illuminati card game card is a picture of the blowing up. On this card it says, play this card to give you 10 extra powers or resistance, your choice, to any violent group you choose. Illuminati card. The Illuminati card shows the on fire. On this card it says, lets you draw 1 extra plot card each turn. Illuminati card goal, population reduction. Destruction of up to 3 huge places. Sounds familiar. Counts as 2 groups, each toward your basic goal. The bottom of the card says if you can destroy 5 huge places without resources to World War III, you may claim victory on the bias alone. The blank, or what appear to be is on this card. Illuminati card Hollywood. Behind the phony tinsel lives the real tinsel. Oscar Levant. The power of Hollywood is increased by 2 for each media personality in your power structure. Illuminati card Fear and Loathing, New World Order. The card says par ons increase worldwide +8 on any attempt to control. Illuminati card I Lied. The card says you don't have to keep your side of the deal, but they do. I strongly suggest you take a closer look at the whole Illuminati card game. You will be shocked at all the similarities these cards have in common with things that have happened in history. Perhaps coincidence, if you want to believe that. Even cards of what happened in 2020, 21, and on. Ted Nunderson, for all of you laughing and saying the Illuminati is silly or not real, let's take a look at what Ted Gunson, former chief of the Los Angeles FBI, said. The CIA is behind most, if not all, in America. As for the FBI, there is no question whether or not it has been infiltrated by the Illuminati. That is coming from someone in the FBI, and not just any someone, the former chief of the Los Angeles FBI. Music industry. Many different songs talk about the towers. Many people have referenced this as part of the pre-planning of the, which yes, many songs refer to this, but they might have been talking about the, and not the. I picked one that you could clearly tell they were talking about, and not the Roy Harper Band. Vinyl single in 1982, the Roy Harper Band shows in the background with words on the album cover saying, "No one gets out alive." The Co-op Group. The cover of a music CD group called The Co-op shows in the background. Def Leppard. Def Leppard cover shows with a target on it titled Pronomia. Air Pop Terminal 2. Recap of Chapter 3. Coincidence? I think not. All these references are no coincidence. They show very telling signs of what would happen on. How can there be way over 200 examples of these types of things to show how entertainment is used to manipulate one's thinking? They do this on purpose, some may say to laugh in our face. I believe it is more of a way for them to communicate to each other, to say that it's still going to happen. The planning is still in play. They don't just do it with the movies I mentioned. There are tons and tons of movies that show this. You just need to look for it. The sad thing is it's just not clues you can find in movies, but so much more. Child pedophilia is all over in the movies I mentioned above, plus so many more. Again, my friends, has many different videos showing this. This might be the next book that will be written. To be spot on, you could say it is scary, or maybe even sad or sick. Everyone has the right to think what they want. People must never close their minds out to new information. When a person only thinks one way or that is the only way it can be, they are not allowing themselves the opportunity to see something for what it really is. We try to think about how another person thinks, or we try to get their perspective on an idea before we make a decision. We might agree with them, and sometimes we might not agree with their way of thinking. It's all good. Time and time again, so many people get so upset when people don't agree with them or think a different way. Just think how boring life would be if we all did think the same way. Some people may never understand the risks that people are taking to voice their thoughts and concerns. They are not just saying things to say something. They are risking their lives, careers, family, their freedom to share information with you. You always have the choice to believe or not believe what someone shares with you. If you find yourself to be closed-minded, maybe just ponder the thoughts and try to understand the questions of why would there be people out there willing to risk so much to just share the information with me. When people feel they are superior or better than someone else, they see themselves as untouchable. They think no one is better than them. When you think like this, then you see everyone else as a peasant, a joke, stupid, or little-minded, treating poorly, humiliating, making to look dumb. They think, how could they know better than me? They develop a God complex. When people of power get this kind of control, they don't care who they hurt, what is said, nothing and nobody matters to them because they are the only ones who matter. Think about that for a moment. If they feel this way, and we have all experienced a person who has been in power or control, how they treat people, then how can we not see that they are laughing in our faces? They were showing us point blank in movies and TV how they belittled us and say how stupid we are. They put it out there knowing no one will think twice about it because some people will see it and ignore it. Some people will see it and get angry, and some people will look at it and question it. No matter what a person does, they win. They win because no one can touch them. They think they are gods. Do they say to themselves, who would challenge God? This is why it is in plain sight. To them, the more they show how clever they think they are, how many times they wink and laugh in our faces, no matter how they do it. And then the other reason why they do it is to get it programmed into our head. If we keep seeing it over and over subconsciously and not know it, then when it really happens, our brains will just accept it because we have had that loaded into our brains previously. That's how predictive programming works. They think they always win. Whenever we hear something new and we research it and find it out to be accurate, we all go through a sense of denial. That is human nature. The reason is you always thought one way, and now you have discovered that what you thought about is far different. The first thing our brain is going to do is go into denial and deny it. We deny it because it goes against what we believed before. After all, it is scary because you don't want to think it's true. These are all things that every human being goes through. Sometimes when you learn something different than the way you thought it was, you regret it. For example, JFK. Some people will always believe that Lee Harvey Oswald killed JFK, while others think that he was set up to be the fall guy. When you choose to believe it was Oswald, you can just move on and say everything is fine. You are upset that it happened, but you move on. When you choose to believe it was not Oswald, you start to question everything in history. When this occurs, you begin to look at other events in history and begin to realize certain other circumstances you were told, you were lied to about, and how they happened. This can be very hard for a person to understand for many reasons. First, you have to question how you were taught in school. Second, you get angry. Third, you realize that these events have meaning and seem to repeat themselves. Fourth, you realize that your safety and well-being are going to be challenged. Knowledge is power, and power can change things if done in the right way. If a person intends to better someone, make it fair or right, or if a mistake has been made by someone that was doing something wrong and you are trying to make a wrong a right, then power is good. For example, on that date, what if the wrong person was blamed for the attacks and the real person who was responsible for over 3,000 people are walking freely? Would you want justice? Do they have the right to continue living their very rich lifestyle with no justice being served? Think of the families of the victims who died. Where is their justice? Say someone killed your dad and you knew who it was, but they accused the wrong person of your dad's. Would you be okay with knowing your dad's was just walking the streets, loving life? Heck no, you would want the world to know the truth. You would not stop until the real killer or killers would be caught, arrested, and thrown in jail. What we read and see is not predicting the future. This is predictive programming of the masses by people who know the future. They want to condition the masses to accept things that they have subconsciously taken as not out of the realm of plausibility. This reduces our need to question things and resists unwanted change. The only one who benefits from this type of thinking are the elite. So who is generally laughing in the end? When I first set out on this journey, you might be surprised to know it wasn't to prove was an inside job. I wanted to prove it was done just how the government said it happened. Confused? Believe it or not, I believe the story I was told, just like some of you did or still do. I had a friend who tried showing me the facts. He would talk about how it was an inside job all the time. It drove me crazy. I thought he was crazy. No way would our own government attack his own people. One day I got mad at him and I said, okay, I'm going to get my hands on as much information as I can to prove you are crazy and to show that you are way too deep into the rabbit hole. Once I can prove to you that you are wrong about this, then do you promise to never bring it up again? Oddly enough, he agreed with me. At the time, I did not understand why he agreed with me, but of course now I do. Let's just say I was so very wrong. So now, as I tell my friends who love to debate with me about, I just tell them to prove me wrong, and I will never bring it up again. While I am writing this book, it is the year 2020. Many things are going on currently that many people are referencing back to. I was debating to bring this up in the book, but with so many things happening, I think it is essential to add this information. You'll have to read that paragraph by yourself because there's too many words in it. Has taken over the world. I am hoping as you read this that is no longer a thing and you are saying to yourself, that is a word I never want to hear again, ever. Riots are breaking out all over the world. The United States has been put under lockdown and has a curfew. The riots started because of police brutality on an African American man, which again, I have over probably 80 references to why that one is not true. We are dealing with businesses getting destroyed, fires, graffiti, and much hate being shown toward one another. Is going on trial for the emails. The Hollywood are all being exposed to following the Illuminati cult, and Trump is being blamed for all of it by some. Scholars and PhD friends whom I have talked to in the past have been reaching out to me asking me what I think about all this. I am in complete shock that people of this educational level would care to hear what a little average Joe like me has to say. Then on the other hand, it made me think, why would people with that level of higher education be questioning all this? I would love more than anything to share with all of you what I feel is really going on behind the smoking mirrors, but I can't. I do have many facts to debunk many of the things happening as a false flag, but this would be another book entirely. The point I'm trying to make is that after reading this book, if it leads you in any way to question what really happened then I urge you to continue into the search of finding out the truth on other things as well. I have many of my closed-minded friends, as I call them, always bringing up things like, this always makes me chuckle a little because all these things are ran by the elite and censored only to show you what they want you to see. They even go as far as writing articles about it saying there are silly conspiracy theories going around saying blah, 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 blah. Then going on to say don't believe them because here are the facts. Just another way they mind control the masses and get you to believe their version of the story. Ask yourself this is, if they are silly conspiracy stories, why do they waste so much time trying to convince you that they are false? Why do they show you all the facts of what the conspiracist is showing? Just to follow up with stupid answers that do not make sense at all, kind of like the commission report did. The reason they do this, they know that the majority of the people will just move on and not question any of it. Once again, controlling, keeping the power, shutting you up. This brings us to the conclusion of that happened. Let's recap and connect all the dots up to this point. Then we can move on to the next section. We started by discussing the construction of how they were built, how they were created to have crash into them and not fall. We learned about critical players and how these certain people did nothing on that date to protect the people. We learned how certain people were financially tied to the same people they were saying were we learned that they continued to be friends with these people even after we learned how certain companies were tied together, and for some reason these companies had worked in the work that was done happened to be on the same floors that impacted. We saw this not just one building, but we finished off by discussing different forms of media used prior to that had very close ties to. We learned that there are over 100 plus types of media programming, thus proving that it cannot all just be mere coincidence. When we look at all these connections, we can start to connect the dots that help to lead us to the bigger picture. Start doing your own research, people. You need to seriously look into stuff.